Her name was Celia, the last bucardo. And today, she's gone forever. How did a species that ruled these mountains for thousands of years vanish in silence?
There are stories etched into the very stones of the world, narratives told in the bones of fallen creatures and the hollowed out spaces they once inhabited. This is one such story. It is not a tale of a beast from a forgotten age, but of a creature that walked among us until just a few short years ago. I am talking about the Pyrenean Ibex, or the bucardo, a mountain spirit, a living symbol of an ancient and wild Europe. Its extinction, officially declared in the year 2000, was not a sudden act of fate, but the tragic and inevitable conclusion of a slow-moving, human-driven process. It is a poignant, almost poetic lesson for us all, an autopsy of a passing that was both predictable and maddeningly preventable. The Pyrenean ibex was a subspecies of the Iberian ibex, a creature of staggering agility and power, perfectly adapted to the unforgiving mountain heights of Spain and France. The males, with their thick, ridged horns curving backward, were kings of the crags. These animals were not just inhabitants of their ecosystem, they were its architects, their grazing and trampling activities shaping the very structure of the plant life around them. But this robust exterior, this image of an untamable wildness, masked a hidden fragility. Scientists have discovered that for thousands of years the subspecies had been experiencing a loss of its range and, more critically, a profound decline in its genetic diversity. This silent genetic erosion left them vulnerable, their ability to resist disease and adapt to a changing world fatally compromised. And it was on this already weakened population that human pressure bore down with devastating effect. The primary cause of the bucardo's extinction was excessive hunting. Despite being officially banned in 1913, the slaughter continued unchecked, decimating the last remaining individuals. It is an infuriating contrast, the slow recognition of its peril met with a tragically slow response. But hunting was not the only factor. The ibex also fell prey to diseases transmitted by domestic livestock. These were not isolated pressures, they were a confluence of forces acting on a species already on the precipice. The ibex was pushed and pushed and pushed until there was nowhere left to fall. The final chapter of this story is both a lament and a desperate attempt at redemption. The last known individual, a female named Celia, died in January 2000. With her passing, a key part of the mountain ecosystem was simply gone. But her story did not end there. 3 years later, in a stunning and unprecedented act, Spanish biologists used frozen skin tissue from Celia to attempt to clone her. They took her DNA and placed it into the eggs of a domestic goat. And for a brief, glorious 7 minutes, a clone was born alive, a living, breathing echo from the past, only to perish due to physical defects in its lungs. This genetic resurrection, though a failure in its immediate goal, was a triumph of a different kind. It showed us that even in death, a species can leave behind a scientific legacy, and that proactive, genomics-driven conservation is our most powerful weapon against extinction. The lessons are stark and clear. Act early, enforce the law, and prioritize the preservation of genetic diversity. We cannot afford to wait until a species has been hunted to a handful of individuals. We cannot allow its genetic fortitude to be bled out slowly in the silence of our inattention. The bucardo's ghost now haunts the high peaks, a silent reminder that our vigilance is the only thing that stands between life and eternal emptiness.